Good morning. I am absolutely delighted to be here and to be opening the stage here at Draper University. My name is Brian Daly, and I'm the CEO of a company called GrandPal. We are curing old age loneliness. So just like you, I'm absolutely amazingly excited to learn from this stage today. There's so much going on. And to let you in on a little story, back in Dublin in 2011 until 2014, I actually worked for a Web Summit. So it's really special to be back, to see it grow from a gathering of Paddy's closest friends, i.e. 400 people, to a 70,000 person conference that it is today. So after Web Summit, I went on to work with Techstars, which is also like a massive startup university. So I worked for Techstars for 4 years. And one thing that I can say that's really important is networking, right? So getting to know people in industry, and I think this is a very, very, very good example of and a great opportunity to meet lots of great people doing similar things and to connect and grow your network. So to continue the Web Summit tradition on networking, I would love if everyone would take 2 minutes just to look around and meet at least 1 or 2 other people that they've never met before, introduce each other, and possibly meet each other for lunch today at 1 p.m. You never know what's going to come from it. So please take a minute or two to connect with the closest person to you. Awesome. So I can promise you that the secret of Web Summit is hidden in these secret conversations. Chatting with one another, unveiling different startup tricks, getting connections, getting introduced to other people's investors and whatnot is going to make this conference a really, really special experience for everyone. But of course, once you ask people to start talking and introduce themselves, they love to do that. So it can be difficult to pull it back and get the stage engaged again. Today's lineup is really, really impressive. I'm going to be with you until lunchtime introducing the speakers. So in this morning's session alone, you will learn how to survive your company's first year. Very, very important. How to deal with competition, along with getting advice from VCs, UX, and scaling. From discussions on hiring refugees to the secrets of startup success, we're covering it all. So next up on stage, this man really doesn't need an introduction as such. There's no one quite like him when it comes to the startup world. He's the founder of a firm that became DFJ. He founded Draper Associates, Draper University. Here to tell you the secrets of surviving your first year in a startup. Mr. Tim Draper will be coming to stage in just a few minutes. So please sit tight, enjoy the show, and I look forward to checking in with you guys in a little while. Thank you.
Oh, this is great. All right. Now that you've gotten to know each other, so that first year of being a startup is a bear, because there's so many unusual things that can happen to you. But first, let me sort of take you through my thinking of what entrepreneurship's all about. Entrepreneurship is really just going out and taking that first step and then trying to figure out whether this makes sense or not. And then you maybe have to take a step back, and then you take another first step. And then you, oh, wait, I'm not sure I want to take that next step. And then you're back. It's all about getting going and getting something going. And then what happens is you start to learn as you go. And you learn a little bit here and a little bit there, and you start to understand what maybe your customer wants. But before you even do all that, I want you to do some deep soul searching. Is this really what you want to do with your life? Because when I go and I interview these entrepreneurs, a lot of the times when I ask them, why are you doing this? They'll come back to me and they'll say, because I want to make money. Or the clever ones will say, I want to make you money. That doesn't do it. That isn't enough. The entrepreneurs that I'm going to back are the ones who say, oh my God, the world's completely wrong. We have to do this. We have an entrepreneur. I worked for this company for 10 years and I kept telling them this is the way it should be, and they didn't listen, and I know that this is a better way of operating because I've talked to customers. So I always want you to, as entrepreneurs in that first year, do some real soul searching. But then realize that you may or may not win, but when you're an entrepreneur, you are pushing the ball forward. You are making the world better. Whether you win or lose, whether you're Friendster or Facebook, you are making an enormous impact on the world. And it's really interesting because people say, oh, well, you know, too bad about MySpace or whatever, right? But MySpace really made a big impact. They just didn't, they got outmaneuvered or just things changed. The market changed on them and they got surprised. That stuff's going to happen to you. Markets are going to move. You're going to be thrown. You're going to try to figure it all out, and you're going to be thrown off, and you're going to wonder why the customers aren't going for you. They're going for your competitor, and it'll be very frustrating. But those will be your greatest moments, because those are the moments where you say, okay, what does the customer really need? So the best entrepreneurs are not the ones who say, hey, you know, this is a microphone, I can make a slightly better microphone. The best entrepreneurs are the ones who say, what is it that we're trying to do here with a microphone? What's the point of a microphone? Well, the point of a microphone is to be able to project your voice. So potentially the great entrepreneur would do something like create something where they could talk into something and then it would pervade people's iPhones or something. But I mean, I'm just using that as an example of the way an entrepreneur might look at something. A great entrepreneur might look at something not as I can make something better than that, but what is the problem that I'm trying to solve? What's the deep-rooted problem that we need to solve on this planet? You know, we're a bunch of, as my son says, we're just a bunch of little life forms flying around on this rock. And how do we make it so that this set of life forms becomes a bigger and greater set of life forms? And maybe it's around a lot of rocks. Maybe it's out into space. maybe we need to get off this planet so that we can kind of figure out how we can live on other planets. Maybe you just want to, be somebody who really helps people. Maybe that's what you're really after. Maybe you're trying to help animals. Whatever it is, make sure that you're getting to the root need. You understand that root need. And then beyond the root need, then you can do something really extraordinary, because you can flip the world. You can change the way we operate. You can change the way people are doing certain things. And that's really what an entrepreneur is. An entrepreneur is a change agent for the progress of society. It makes all of our lives better, and that's what I want all of you to do. Think in terms of how do I make all of our lives better? How do I make us a better world? And today, we have some really interesting vehicles to make the world better. Okay, so I'm old enough to know how great it was when the internet came and it started to transform all these industries, and it transformed huge industries, and it made us all many things much more facile, much more easy to do. And so the internet transformed communications and information and gaming and taxis and all sorts of entertainment, music, a wide variety of industries. And those industries are all sort of in the $10 to $100 billion range, which means that they affect a lot of people and they make a big impact on people. Well, now we have some technologies that can potentially absolutely transform the world. I was out kind of lost walking with my daughter last night, and we kind of wandered around, and then we had to find our way back, and we used, I just got out my Google Maps, and I said, well, how do I walk back? And it was just like magic to me, but to her it's sort of normal. But to me, I was thinking, when I used to get lost, if I had a paper map, I didn't know where to start. So people say, oh, AI is going to take over our jobs. No way. AI is going to make our lives really awesome. So anyway, Google Maps is really AI for getting yourself unlost. So let me tell you what the technologies are that I believe could transform the biggest industries in the world. And what that means is affect the most people in the world. We somehow magically discovered the work of this guy, Satoshi Nakamoto. He created Bitcoin. And with Bitcoin came a variety of very interesting technologies that you all should be aware of, should use, and should see if you can incorporate into your business. He created, first, a decentralized currency that can be used anywhere. And it opens up the world. And the world is now going to be much closer together because they now have a currency that can be used globally. Created the blockchain, which is this perfect ledger that takes care of keeping perfect track of all the numbers, all the data, all the things that you need to keep track of. And then off of that became smart contracts. These contracts that could be built into software, so there would be no dispute after the contract was signed. And then now we can take all of those technologies and apply them to big data and all the deep learning that goes on with big data, and apply artificial intelligence to them. And we can start transforming some of the biggest, messiest, most ridiculous industries in the world. And those industries are much bigger, much broader, and will have a bigger impact on all of us than any of the industries affected by the internet. So those industries are finance and commerce and banking and insurance and real estate and then healthcare. And then there's one industry that, I want to get into because what I do as a venture capitalist when I'm looking whether I invest in a company or not is, am I looking at an industry that today provides really bad service at a really high cost? And if they provide really bad service at a really high cost and they're still in business, it's probably because they have a monopoly or oligopoly position. Well, the industry, there are plenty of industries that are in that oligopoly position. Healthcare is definitely one of them, insurance, banking. But the one that provides the worst service at the highest cost is government. Government provides horrible service at a high cost, and they're always monopolies. Okay, but they're only monopolies because we lived off fiefdoms. We lived as tribal, like us against you or you against them. And it was always sort of this tribal thing. Well, now we have Bitcoin. Suddenly it's opened up all of our thinking. We're all one world. There's a currency that is totally global and decentralized and not tied to some political force. And so all these fiefdoms now are going to have to change their thinking. So if you are uncertain, if you're starting a business and you're uncertain about what to go after government. This is a huge opportunity. Never been a bigger opportunity in the history of the planet, because I believe that these governments are all going to have to compete for us. They're going to have to compete for you, the great entrepreneurs of the world. They're going to have to compete for me, for money, they're going to have to compete for citizens, for businesses. They're going to have to all compete, and they now have a new tool to compete with. They now have Bitcoin and all the associated technologies. Imagine this. You could actually have a government where you can use Bitcoin, blockchains, smart contracts, and artificial intelligence, big data, and you can actually provide a perfect, honest system of welfare. You can provide a perfect, honest system of Social Security, or healthcare insurance, or Department of Motor Vehicles, whatever. You could actually have these governments having to fight for you across borders. I have a virtual residency in Estonia, and that's because the Estonian Prime Minister came to Draper University and he said, just by instituting digital signatures, we saved 2% of our GDP, and then digital voting brought the young people in to vote, and then digital identity lowered our crime rate, increased our business climate. And then he gave me this card and he said, here, you're the third virtual resident of Estonia. And I thought, wow, this is great. But it got me thinking that there's a huge part of governance that can be done virtually and done by another government, not one that you're living in, not one that's tied to some geographic land base. So there's huge opportunity there. And I'll give you another one. Now, you guys should all be thinking of your own, but I'll give you another one just for fun. Healthcare. I can ultimately take my own data, put it up into the cloud, and it can not just be my medical records, it can be my blood test results and my genetic history and my Fitbit results and what I had for breakfast and where I've traveled and who I've met. It can be a number of other things. And then that data becomes much better for diagnosing me and making me, better taken care of than my doctor could possibly know. Because that data will remember things that I never even thought about. So if I have a headache, it could be because it's just a regular headache, or because I got hit in the head the other day, or could be because I've been on Fire Island and I got a tick bite and I have Lyme tick disease. Could be any of those things. They would all require a different diagnosis. Well, so healthcare is going to completely change. And so is government, and so is insurance, and so is finance, and are so many other industries. And think of all the creativity in this room, and now we have this new technology. We need to apply this new technology and start thinking, now we're global, we're no longer tribal, we're completely open, we're decentralized, and it's going to be an awesome world. We'll be able to go anywhere, we'll be able to use the same kind of money anywhere we want to go. We're not going to be tied to some political money. These political forces swing back and forth, and they pretty much dictate how much money you get in your country. Makes no sense. So we have a big opportunity to take this and really run with it, and to open up the world and make the world more beautiful for all of us. And this is really your time. People are going to look back at this time and say, wow, those entrepreneurs, those people who showed up and started that business, and it's first year or whatever it is that I'm supposed to be talking about here. That first year, they showed up, they performed, they did something cool for that first year. They made it even cooler because they applied new technologies to it. They did something really unique, and they pushed our world forward in a way that no world has ever seen in the history of our world. I mean, this is it. This is your big opportunity. And by the way, it's your life too. Make sure that what you do is so critical for you, so important to you, that you really do want to be an entrepreneur and do want to dedicate yourself to it. Because if you do, you can be one of the people that really changes the earth. Now, I'm going to finish with one thing, and that is Ian Wright, Martin Eberhard, Elon Musk. Okay, you've probably heard of one of those three, but they were all critical in the making of Tesla. Ian Wright actually brought me around in the first electric car that wasn't a golf cart. And then I said, oh, wow, I've got to really study this. Martin Eberhard was the founder of Tesla. He created the first Tesla. He got it going. And then Elon Musk took it from there and made it into the amazing company it is today. All three of those people were absolutely mission critical to the success of Tesla. So what I want you to do is go out there, take that first step, be that entrepreneur that you need to be, and know that you might be any of those three people when all is said and done, but you're moving the ball forward and you're making the world a better place. Thank you very much. This is great fun.